Okay. Difficulty of normal content. I wanted to wait to see the raid tier before I say anything. There are already posts about dungeon and trial difficulty, and now normal raid should be thrown into the discussion too. And I might repeat points already said, but I think we should really make a point of this. We, the people not okay with this difficulty, need for the devs to hear it to hopefully make a course correction. The problem with the difficulty on normal fights, as I see it, is use and abuse of non-standard telegraphs, nasty mechanic overlaps, stuff you would see on extreme and harder fights, mechanics resolving too quickly for the mental capacity they demand to process, one too many catch this mechanics that have you running around like a headless chicken, evading seemingly random patterns. All this had been making fights in the expansion frustrating and exhausting. The honeybee fight had me wishing for the healer to not raise me. I was there on the floor, dead for the nth time. The honeybee fight isn't even that bad. It literally is just dodge the gigantic glowing
magic,
AoE. And it's not even an issue of learning the fight, because that I can do, but we don't do this content alone, you know? I think it was the 4th time I was doing Valor Gamanda, and when I finally managed to finish without dying myself. But that's a moot point when half the party was dead half the time. Even knowing the fight doesn't make it any less of a disheartening experience. And yes, this concerns normal raids too, even if they are optional content. Optional. Optional. That is your key word, my dear. Optional. In fact, I was gonna take the skip option for this right here. Something I haven't done since I started playing in Stormblood. And that's the point really. For the most part in past 3 expansions, difficulty for normal content was fair outside of some hiccup here and there. I firmly believe that content meant to be done via the duty finder, where you don't choose who you're playing with, shouldn't be this level of punishing. And I know that JP people do Savage in the duty finder, but we don't do that in NA or EU. For better or worse, Western players doesn't behave like JP players. Finally, I think that people that thrive with difficulty, the ones that demand harder content, already have extremes, savages, ultimate, criterion dungeons, and more. Yoshipi's even touting of savage alliances. This people is eating really, really good. Do they need to take normal content too? Can casual players have something easy-ish to play? Everything in the MSQ is pretty casual friendly. Like, I don't think Valor Garmando was that punishing. That's kind of thing that happens when you see mechanics for the first time, you die. I feel like people like this want content that all you need to do is spam your 1, and that's the only thing you need to do. Normal raids have always been the bridging the content between true casuals content and extremes. That's why it's optional. Normal raids are designed to be turned to about as hard as the devs are willing to make content, with a full pick-me-up group and actual no-strat discussion. Endwalker was the ally here. Besides P3, the rest of them are over glorified trials and actual normal raids. But you agree that normal raids are casual, right? Because what I played today was not casual. You know what? Are normal raids casual content? Would you guys say normal raids are casual content? I'd say casual content is anything in the MSQ. Everything else, like, okay. It just, what does casual mean? Like, okay, this is what I think casual means, is that you don't dedicate time to this game, right? You just log in and do whatever the fuck you want. Could be alliance raids, could be normals. You don't dedicate time to learning stuff. You just play the game. That's what I think a casual is. For fuck's sake, you have been playing for 100 levels. Enough is enough. Get good or go home. So tired of this. We finally get an expansion that doesn't infantilize its player base, and you have people on here going fucking nuts. I don't care about your alleged insert chronic disorder, disease, age, broken bones, stressful day, whatever here. If you're that fucking casual, do fates and hunts. Let those of us who actually enjoy the gameplay do so and fucking based! Holy shit! Okay, the thing is, the Final Fantasy XIV community is very much against improving their gameplay. Square Enix is punishing the normal MMO evolution cycle of making progressively harder content, which ticks these people off that are just not playing the game for playing the game, but are part of this game's community to RP, spend time with friends without gameplay. True! And before anyone comes in and accuses me of being an elitist savage raider, feel free to check my logs. They aren't impressive, but apparently the ability to... But apparently the ability to hit your button is more or less the correct order is beyond the bar for casual. Holy shit, dude. This person's so Christ! Oh my god! If you thought the patterns were seemingly random, OP, you weren't observing properly. This is the best tier I've ever played for normal raids, and I've been a player since the Realm Reborn. Awesome music, great vibe, and fun and engaging raids. This is level 100. You don't get to just do in and out spread anymore. You should have been included in that by the dungeon's release with 7.0. And furthermore, players need to understand it's okay to fail. It's okay to get a vuln sack or fall off the arena or get KO'd and wipe. You don't lose EXP like in Final Fantasy 11 for dying. You just start again. This raid tier is tuned properly. There's a challenge, but that challenge is not so difficult that you can't overcome it with a few pulls, or if things go really awful, a single lockout. You're not meant to be able to queue into any duty blind and clear everything without a single mistake every time, unless you're some hardcore type gamer who can read ahead. Even so, those of us who do savage raids still make mistakes now and then. Mistakes are okay. It's too bad you're quitting before even trying. I actually really struggled in endwalker, so to me, dawntrail is unplayable, and isn't for lack of trying. I promise you, I study the videos and give my all, so I am sick of people saying we're struggling because we're not trying. I'm sick of the rude attitude people are giving. This is not the community I've grown to love. These people don't care about anyone's experience but their own. I'm currently not playing due to frustration and being stuck on a dungeon. I log in and do my base runs and go play Guild Wars 2, but I am seriously considering it may be time to actually quit. They're level 94 Pictomancer. What dungeon are they stuck on? See, that's the thing too. If you're struggling with dungeon, you just go with trust. The first time in almost 6 years, I'm contemplating quitting the game. I've never let my sub drop in almost 6 years. I pay for all retainers and the companion app, but dawntrail is just too hard and frustrating. I'm not having fun. It may be time to move on. But I don't own a house and an FC, so that makes the decision hard. Just so we are perfectly clear, what I am asking for is to return to the same difficulty level of Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker when it comes to normal dungeons, trial, and raids. I don't think anything's harder. It's just more it's just different mechanics. And to the people giving me tips on how to play it, thank very much, but I've been playing for 6 years. Might not be a 1.0 player, but I know how to play the game. And I stand by what I wrote in the OP. There is a clear jump on difficulty in normal content compared to the last 3 expansions. And if you don't notice it, congratulations on being a big dick player. I would say the first was a slightly undertone even for normal. That's not necessarily a bad thing for the first boss of an expansion, but I feel like it could use a little extra. The second boss is fine. I know groups are having a rough time this morning, but most people are also doing it at minimum eye level. Once people are at 700 plus, the boss will feel better. I would add that the conal AoE used on players are dodging hearts could use a stronger visual. It's literally bright pink! It was hard to see, and trying to pick out the boss facing while dodging hearts can be difficult. The third boss is a mess mechanically. I'd argue that the third boss isn't a mess mechanically. I died to the third boss like 2 or 3 times. But when you learn the third boss does his arm cleaves, he has explosions, and he has knockback towers. The fourth boss is fine. I'd say that fight is best designed for normal. It just takes a little practice when it comes to the memory game. Okay. And before anyone comes and accuses me of being an elite savager, feel free to check my logs. They aren't impressive, but apparently the ability to hit your buttons more or less. Sorry, but that's a really crappy attitude to bring here. None of those fights were fights where players could get by just hitting buttons in more or less the correct order. Though the first fight came close, which is why I said I felt it could use a little something more. Players have natural skill caps regardless of those things you contemptuously list. The natural skill gets lowered when they are suffering from one of those conditions. Trying to downplay your performance is pointless when the longs aren't representative of the entire player base, and normal is supposed to be for the entire player base. I don't think... Okay. I do not think normal raids are supposed to be for the entire player base. It is literally impossible to cater to the entire player base. It's fucking impossible. How many millions of people play Final Fantasy XIV? There is nothing the developers can do that will make every single person happy. In this case of get good, you have been playing for 100 levels now. These raids are optional content and are not even too hard to duty find by any means. It is beyond ridiculous to me that you can't even just give this content 24 hours before dunking on it for being too difficult when people are still just learning the mechanics. Not to mention this content is going to become easier as gear outscales it in a month. I genuinely do not understand how you could even get stuck in a dungeon. Even when you die every 2 mechanics, a mediocre duty fighter party can easily carry you through any dungeon. I don't run with players. I have anxiety, my heart races, and my hands shake so much so that it's sometimes hard to even keep them on the keys. I don't want to burden others, so I run with trust and put off trials for months. I don't even know what to say to that, man. Like what I would say is don't play an MMO. If you don't like doing content and prefer a social experience outside of running story, this game is not forcing you to do so. If you don't like raiding, the gear provided should not be important to you anyway. This content is going to be easier when gear level outscales it in a month. This isn't an attempt to tell you that your feelings are invalid. This is also a hard case of a small minority expecting developers to pander to them constantly while ruining the fun for everyone else. A game for everyone is a game for nobody. That goes hard! That's where you're wrong. Everyone keeps saying this, and it's the opposite. I don't want them to change it to make it easier. I want everyone to have what they want. I just want an option for people like me, not forced on you, but everyone else who don't want it easier, don't even want to give us who struggle an option. I don't run optional content, I only run MSQ. I just want to be able to get through the story because I like the story. If you don't run optional content and only do MSQ, then the game is already catering to you just fine. You have trust. This game is an MMO, not a single-player RPG. It is your duty to manage expectations in that regard, and nobody is going to judge you if you just prefer to do MSQ and stick around to socialize. However, they are not going to design trust around raids. This completely removes the whole point of the game being an MMO and will just make queues longer. Gonna be direct, and you won't like it, but you need to hear it. It's not hard, you're just not good enough. Is that harsh? Yes. But the normal raids still have nothing on savages or ultimates, and once you're familiar with the mechanics, will be very straightforward. The combat designers are finally getting to be adventurous and try new things that haven't existed before. See, that's literally what I said! They're trying new things. It's new mechanics. And in return, we get threads like these where you are upset because it's too difficult. If you really dislike that things feel difficult, come back later with more gear and try them then. I promise you that more people will be grateful for the difficulty then and very happy with this direction. If you've been playing since Stormblood, Shinryu, Tsukiyomi, and the Warrior Light were all as tough, if not harder than these raids. If you've been playing since Stormblood, Shinryu, Tsukiyomi, okay, sorry, let me read what you just said. People want it easy, but if it's too easy, then they're being lazy and there's no content. But if it's too hard, then people are complaining because it's too hard and want it nerfed. There's literally no winning. Honestly, honestly, the thing that is pissing people off most are the dungeons. They are drastically harder than before and people don't know how to handle it. Good night, Death. I will say, okay, MSQ dungeons are not harder. Experts are harder. And I think expert dungeons being harder is fine because it's literally in the name. Expert dungeon. If your anxiety is so bad you can't handle getting stuck in a video game, read a book or something. I don't have sympathy anymore. People have authored solutions, have offered to help, have offered to literally post videos of how to do the content, and it's not enough. It's never enough. Imagine this conversation in literally any other game. I demand racing games be slower because I get motion sickness when I move too fast on screen. We need to dumb down competitive fighting games. I have arthritis and can't comfortably hold a controller. It's not just asking for an easy mode. You're asking to double the workload to accommodate a minority in a way that makes the game so boring that the developers themselves complain about falling asleep playing it. It is detrimental for the game and the community. This has gotten to a ridiculous point. I can't believe, of all things, this is what get me to post in this hellhole where neurons go to die. But you guys have been coddled by the game getting easier for so long you can't even realize you could have almost played the whole of endwalker raids on a second screen while watching a TV show. The game is a snooze fest, quite literally, to the point it becomes known as the retirement home of MMO players, if not other types of games too. If you can't play at this level, learn how to play your job and to dodge AoEs, because all this game's bases its mechanic on is those. Counting to 8 and recognizing shapes or colors. You only get a pass at complaining if you're colorblind, because the options for that in this game are bad. You can't do normal raids at this level? Don't. You don't need them. You want to do them anyway? Learn how. Dude, that's such a good thing to say, though. If you can't do normal raids, then don't do them. If you want to, learn. It's about time we started demanding competence in duties instead of side-eyeing that pug in PF that can't even 1, 2, 3 because the game didn't require to do him before that point. You can literally find groups of people that willingly, like, there are people that will teach you how to play the goddamn game. You just need to reach out. There are videos, there are YouTube videos, there are guides, there's the balance, there's icy veins. If you can't handle social interactions in the game, don't play an MMO. No one wants to cater to whatever issue you have because you picked the game you couldn't handle due to such a crippling disability. As harsh as that sounds, get therapy and try to better before you attempt social interactions, because we have no obligation to play up to that, and neither do the devs. If your physical condition makes it hard, there's ways to alleviate it, albeit it might take getting used to it. As someone with only 6 functioning fingers and 1 working eye, plus an absurd amount of wrist pains, trust me, it's doable. If you'd rather just complain that the game is too hard on the forums, praying that the devs give up and dumb the game down again because you can't be asked to learn how to do optional content but still want to have a clear badge, rethink your priorities and consider a different, easier game that fits your needs. And does she know she's live? I mean, I am gonna say that. Dude. Do you guys have any idea how many people cheat in Ultimates and Savages because Savages and Ultimates are too difficult to them, so they use the accessibility tools that you can very easily fucking get off the internet to help you clear the fights? A lot of people do. There are a lot of people that I raid with. There are so many people I raid with that I know they use that stuff. But here's the thing though. I don't care. And most people who play this game don't care. As long as you are doing the mechanics and clearing the fight and aren't being like, especially in Savage and Ultimates, if you're using that stuff, I don't think anyone really cares as long as you're doing it. Struggle and failure are normal. That was kind of the entire point of endwalker's story. If you wipe once or twice, you'll eventually get the hang of it and succeed. If you don't want that kind of challenge, then don't do the completely optional normal raid. If you can't succeed today, just try again tomorrow. But the thing that matters the most is that you're trying. You'll eventually succeed as long as you've just tried. Not all vocal minority and being this dismissive of genuine complaints people have had for over half a decade is so painfully disingenuous that I don't even know where to begin. All that happened with content in dawntrail is that it's designed with the expectation that people know basic underlying game mechanics that veteran players have been more exposed to. It's a wake-up call to actually learn the underlying mechanics of the combat system rather than coasting on by like people have for years. Yet all everyone does is complain about incredibly easy mechanics that would easily be resolvable if they actually bothered to ever learn what a snapshot is or weren't allergic to stepping into the animation of an AoE because they fail to understand that the animation and visual effects are safe so long as the marker is gone and you've resolved the mechanic. What we're witnessing is not hardcore casuals changing the game, but rather a gross, widespread lack of basic, formerly common game knowledge, logic and knowledge that was bred into the player base from how utterly lackluster content was in late Stormblood and the whole of both Shadowbringers and Endwalker. Learn how to actually play the game you all claim to love and to accept that you have to learn a fight to clear it. Alexander 12 took me 10 attempts a day because back when people actually had to learn content to clear. Okay, Alexander 12 took me 10 attempts a day, 10 attempts day one. Oh, Alexander 12 took me 10 attempts day one because back then people actually had to learn content to clear. And you know what? That was considered casual content back then by everyone who did it. Nothing has changed other than the average casual's expectation of what they will have to do to clear content and get their dopamine rush. It's time to get good at the game again and quit complaining. All this time and energy spent moaning on the forums could be put into going into duties, learning mechanics, how the balance system actually works, and getting better enough at the game to not be a burden to everyone around you. Slapping labels on people doesn't benefit anyone and only fans the flames of discord and dissent.